Engkau ku banggakan.
Proklamasi. Kami, bangsa Indonesia, dengan ini menyatakan kemerdekaan Indonesia. Hal-hal yang mengenai pemindahan kekuasaan dan lain-lain diselenggarakan dengan cara seksama dan dalam tempo yang sesingkat-singkatnya. Jakarta, 17 Agustus 1945, atas nama bangsa Indonesia, Soekarno, Hatta.
Si batu manikan di berjoget semua di kotak dia menyanyi sebab mengkajula-jula, sebab mengkajula-jula. Si batu manikan di berjoget semua di kotak dia menyanyi sebab mengkajula-jula, sebab mengkajula-jula. Cuplak-cuplak suang tinggal lenter membuka tondong kudel pak empong lerak-lere sopong guyun dele age sir pong dele kopong sir pong dele kopong. Ampar pisangku belum masak sabigi diurung bari-bari manggalepok patah kayu pengkok dimakan api apinya cancuru rasa sayangi lihat dari jauh rasa sayangi lihat dari jauh rasa sayangi. Honke riro, honke jombe riro, honke riro, honke jombe riro.
kami meninggalkan tanah air pada
Well, hello Sobat Bestari. Yes, that was a video for opening our webinar today. And hopefully this video can lift our spirit in this webinar day too. And talking about spirit, Indonesia and Pakistan will soon celebrate the Independence Day on August. Well, congratulations. And hopefully that spirit can carry over to our webinar today. So, well, to be able to spread our spirit today, let's turn on our camera. Yes, be able to turn on the camera to spread our happiness, our spirit today. Okay, I hope the other participants be able to turn on the camera because it is the last hour webinar, right? So we have to know each other maybe from different country also. Okay, thank you very much. Well, Sobat Bestari, before we start this webinar, I would like to ask something. How do you feel after attending the webinar day 1 yesterday and now joining the webinar day 2? Please write one word in this chat Zoom. If you wanna describe how's your day, of course you'll be able to write one word in this chat room. Okay, I'm waiting there. Okay, how's your day maybe and what you feel now? Please write one word in this comment. Well organized. Okay, thank you, Miss Nurul Sinta. Excited. Okay, thank you very much. Inspired. Thank you from Mr. Hisham. Okay. Before I will start, I wanna ask something again. Are you ready, the other participant and all the participants here to joining and following this last webinar today? Are you ready? Just give emoticon. Okay, ready. Okay. Mr. Hisham already and the other already. Okay, thank you very much. Well, Sobat Bestari, thank you very much for your spirit today, okay? So because I see that all audiences are excited and ready to join our webinar today, I would like to open this international webinar. Well, hello Sobat Bestari, let me introduce myself. My name is Putri Amalia as Master of Ceremony Webinar International today. Well, Indonesian Scholar Bumi International Research Day, or ISOBER 2022, is the first mentoring research program which held by Bumi scholars on international scale. It's not just the speakers who come from various countries, but the participants also come from various countries. They're from Indonesia, Pakistan, Germany, and New Zealand. And ISOBER 2022 is also a series of events to launch the third Bumi Scholarship in a couple months later. Therefore, I would like to thank the entire people who participate and contribute in ISOBER 2022, and we warmly welcome you to International Webinar ISOBER 2022 Day 2. And also thanks to our collaborators from University Collaboration, Bina Nusantara University, Diponegoro University, Gajah Mada University, Institute Technology and Business Sabda Setia, Indonesia University of Education, Bandung Institute of Technology, and the next is startup collaborator. There are Edukasi Bumi Indonesia, Science Mind Lab, and the last international organization that is Overseas Indonesian Students Association Alliance, or PPI Dunia. Okay, well, thank you very much for our collaborators. Well, Sobat Bestari, I would like to deliver the rules in this webinar. Okay, the number 1, all the participants be able to turn on the camera. Number 2, mute setting during the event. Number 3, change your name or username Zoom with country underscore your name. After that, the number 4, use the virtual background. Number 5, for international webinar participants, it is mandatory to attend in day 1 and day 2 in order to get the certificate, class recordings, and materials. And the number 6, for international mentoring participants, must attend at least 5 times in mentoring class and webinar in order to get a certificate, class recordings, and materials. And then last, all the participants are required to fill in the attendance link as a sign of attendance. And the attendance link is only given during the webinar. Okay, Sobat Lestari, that the rules, our webinar today. And now I would like to deliver our agenda for today. Well, the first, we will have the first photo session. After that, I will introduce our moderator today, and the moderator will lead the main session with our two speakers, Dr. Najaf Iqbal and Dr. Ing Hutomo Suryo Wasisto. And then we will move to Q&A session. And after that, the speakers provide the closing statement and moderator will close the main session. And the next one, we will know more about Bumi Scholarship from the co-founder Bumi Scholar, and then the same time we will announce the abstract selection. Wow! And the last closing by MC. Well, that will our agenda today, Sobat Lestari. So let's move to the next agenda. It's the first photo session for us. Okay, because it is photo session, let's we be able to turn on our camera to get to know each other and etc. So I will waiting you to turn on your camera, please. The participant be able to turn on the camera. I will waiting that. Okay, thank you very much for the participants who be able to turn on the camera. Okay, thank you very much. So the committee will be help to take a screenshot for documentation for us. Okay, I will count in one. Preparing your best smile. Okay, I will. Okay, thank you very much for your smile. Okay, Sobat Lestari, I will counting that 1, 2, and 3. Okay, thank you very much. The second one, in the other poster maybe. Okay, I will counting that 1, 2, and 3. Okay, well, thank you very much, Sobat Lestari. That is the documentation for us. It's the first photo session. And well, Sobat Lestari, let me move on to the next agenda. That is main session delivery for material by Dr. Najaf Iqbal and Dr. Ing Hutomo Suryo Wasisto. And that would be lead to our moderator today, Miss Gabrielle Jessica Kambuan. And before that, of course, I would like to introduce the profile of our moderator today. But the first, I want to say hello to our moderator today. Hi, Miss Gabrielle Kambuan.
Hi. Hi,
Hello,
everyone. Thanks for
Miss.
inviting me
Hi.
to
Oh my God, so
today.
beautiful, right? Our moderator today. Okay, the clothes is same as me in black. Okay, before all the participants, before Miss Jessica Kambuan lead our session, I would like to introduce the profile of our moderator today. The master of moderator today, Miss Gabrielle Jessica Kambuan, is the Master of Medical Science Immunology in Harvard University, Chair of the Health Commission oversees Indonesian Students Association Alliance in PPI Dunia. And she has a lot of achievements that is awarded full funding for the Indonesian government to undertake master degree in United States in 2021. And the next university, Hasanuddin, top scorer, wow, for the Association of Indonesian Medical Education Institution Comprehensive Medical Competency Examination in 2019, and etc. After that, the Miss Gabriela Jessica Kambuan also has a lot of research experiences. Wow, oh my God, it's very inspiring for us, of course, all right? So maybe that's all for me. I would like to call Mr. Gabriel Jessica Kambuan to lead our discuss. Our main discussion today is to Miss Gabriel Jessica Kambuan. Time is yours.
Thank you, Putri, for opening this session and becoming our master of ceremony for today. And also thank you for the committee for inviting me to moderate this session today. So we will have two very esteemed speakers today, Dr. Najaf Iqbal and Dr. Ing Hutomo. Before we start our session, I would like to introduce you to our speakers. Our first speaker will be Dr. Najaf Iqbal from Pakistan. Dr. Najaf Iqbal has an MBA and PhD degrees from the Wuhan University of Technology, China. And he also has a lot of practical experience, such as being an assistant professor in the School of Finance at Anhui University of Finance and Economics, being a member of Africa-Asia Center for Sustainability at the University of Aberdeen. And he also, if I'm not mistaken, has more than 20 publications and reviews for so many scientific journals. I would like to say hi to Dr. Najaf. Hi. Thank you for agreeing to be a speaker at our event today. And I'm sure that we will learn a lot from your talk today. The second speaker for today will be Dr. Ings Hutomo Suryo Wasisto. He is currently an innovation project manager at Infineon Technologies AG, Germany, and also a practitioner in R&D for more than 10 years. He got his doctor engineer degree in semiconductor micro nano electromechanical systems. That is very advanced. From Technische Universität Braunschweig, Germany. And he actually also won the best PhD dissertation from that degree and so many other achievements. I would like to say hi to Dr. Hutomo. Thank you for agreeing to be our second speaker today.
Hi, Gabriel. Hi, everyone. So thanks a lot.
Thank you for agreeing. Thank you to you both for agreeing to speak at our event. And perhaps without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Najaf to present the first talk for today.
I think you're still muted, Dr. Najaf.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Thank
Okay,
you.
dear friends, colleagues, and students, thank you so much for having me here today. It's a pleasure to be here and nice to see my old friends from Wuhan University of Technology like Dr. Shinta and others. It's always great to see old friends. So here I'll try my best to present the topic assigned to me, which is how to start and maintain research collaborations with international researchers. So may I share my screen with you guys? Is it okay?
We still cannot. Okay. Yeah, I think we're starting to see your slides.
So first of all, let me make it clear that all of these are my thoughts, which I'm going to present today and suggest. And these are not exhaustive, and individual researchers and students and all of the colleagues who are attending today, they can exercise their own point of view, their own brainstorming, their own thoughts, how to collaborate and approach international researchers. So these are purely my thoughts, and I'm hopeful that these points I'm going to discuss today will complement with what you have been up to and what do you think that is good to how to approach to international researchers and collaborate. So I've devised this topic into three subcategories. The first one is how do you start collaborations? And when we talk about starting international collaboration, first of all, we have to assume a starting point and an objective in our mind. Starting point is that we assume that we are young international scholars and looking for international collaboration. At this stage, we have not produced so many good articles. We are just new to the research, and at this stage, in my point of view, we should only go for some visible authors. And who are visible authors in my point of view? The authors who have produced a significant number of publications, say more than 10 to 15 to 20, and have achieved a significant number of citations count, like more than 200, 300, up to 1000. So this is kind of a mediocre approach, because at the very start of your research career, if you approach very top authors, that will not be helpful, because they might not respond you, or they might not be interested to collaborate with you. And at the same time, you cannot go for the people who are at very initial level in other countries, because they might not be useful in sharing their experiences with you, because they don't have much experience. So the best thing to do at the start is go for a mediocre approach, go for authors who have a middle level of their research profile. And how do you search for such kind of authors? We have some useful connecting social media apps like LinkedIn, ResearchGate, Publons, Scopus, Google Scholar, Facebook, WhatsApp. All of these platforms are very good for research collaboration. There are other social media platforms also to connect, but these ones are really good for research collaboration. And myself, I have gained very useful and handy contacts from these websites, and I'm still in contact with them, and I have produced some very good research works with collaboration with authors whom I contacted using these applications. And when you search with the query, like what's your what's your field of research, and in what kind of topics you're going to be interested to research, you search with those topics on Science Direct, Springer Nature, Taylor and Francis, or you can, the best thing is go directly to Google Scholar, write your topic and search which authors do you get. And sometimes all authors, sometimes very good and famous authors, they do not make their profiles on these databases like platforms like Google Scholar or Publons or ResearchGate, sometimes due to their busyness and sometimes due to other restrictions. For example, I'll give you example of China. These days, you see increasingly famous authors are coming out of China because of large population, huge population, and large number of universities going into the higher ranks, and government's influence and government's focus towards research. A lot of researchers are from China these days. But in China, Google is not accessible. You cannot open Google in China without using a proxy. So most of the Chinese authors, they do not have a profile on Google Scholar. Sometimes even they don't have a profile on Publons or Google or Scopus or ResearchGate, LinkedIn. Even LinkedIn is also restricted in China. So the best way in this case is you go for their search directly on research databases like Science Direct, Springer Nature, and Taylor and Francis Sage Wiley. You directly go to these databases and search related topics and search for top authors. Now, another point in deciding with whom you should collaborate is the number of reviews performed by that author. When you have shortlisted a number of authors who are potential collaborators for you, this is very important. You check how many reviews they have performed. And the Publons is where you can check how many reviews a researcher has performed. This is important because it reflects your nature, your helpful nature. You know, for peer reviews, you don't get anything. You are not paid. You consume your time and help other authors to evaluate their work. So this represents that you are a helpful person. So if you have performed many reviews, it means you're helpful, and maybe that international researcher who has performed many reviews will be helpful for collaboration with you as well. So this is a good point. So based on these points, when you know their citations count and their profile and their number of reviews they have performed and kind of publications they have achieved in good ranked journals, you bring you come up with a subjective assessment of the international authors. So you see if they come into a mediocre level, and then you can also consider associate editors and editorial review board members of famous journals. For example, you target some journal and your area of research is particularly related to some journal, say for example, International Journal of Emerging Markets. This is just an example. You just go to that journal's website and search for their associate editors and their editorial review board members. If you are able to collaborate and get on board these guys, it will definitely help you to get a favorable response from the editors. You know, when you submit to a journal, directly your paper goes to the chief editor, and chief editor then assigns you an associate editor. So if associate editor is already your co-author, the other associate editors normally, they know him or her, and I think it's useful in getting a favorable response from the editors. Specific talks about previous works of the top authors and plans to move forward on the similar lines. When you approach a particular international collaborator or top author, you should talk specifically and not talk random, because if you talk random and do not talk specifically, they may lose interest in you and they may not contact you next time, or they may not be interested to continue with. Talk about their interests and your strengths. Bring your local context, complementary skills to advance their interest, like win-win cooperation. This thing is very important. When you select and shortlist a number of authors and you have decided that these authors are of my interest, you should know what their interests are and how your strengths or anything that you know is present within you can complement their set of skills. For example, if you are from Indonesia, Indonesia is a big country and there's clearly lack of research in Indonesian context, big, huge population and rising GDP, 7th according to the PPP GDP level in the world. So Indonesia possesses a huge research potential. If you present yourself as an Indonesian context and someone who knows many things about Indonesia and bring their interests and your local Indonesian context together to achieve some good research, and this will definitely appeal them and they will cooperate with you and collaborate with you and publish with you. The next point is very interesting. This is about gender, geography. These things are helpful in getting favorable response from editors recently. Why? Because most of the editors recently are going after diversity, equity, and inclusion. If you are an active researcher these days, whenever you submit your articles, normally they are asking you which gender do you belong to and what's your geography, which area, and what's your race, what's your ethnicity. Why are they collecting this data? Because they want to focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. They do not want all authors to be from North America. They want more publications, more authors from Africa these days, and they want more females to come forward. So try to consider these things into your international collaborations. If you're male, go after female to collaborate because it's going to get a favorable response from editors. If you're Indonesia, go for an African researcher and collaborate with him. So these things are real, and these things are, you know, getting rewards these days. The do's and don'ts with international researchers. So most of these ideas are related to what I have already elaborated. Refine your ideas before is proposing a new project. Don't talk random or uncooked ideas. Again, what this thing will do, this thing will lose the interest of international researcher in you if you just talk about random ideas or uncooked ideas, because they don't have much time and they only want to go after useful context. So you should keep in mind these things. Stay in regular touch, but do not intimidate. That, like, you can contact weekly, but it depends. When you work with the researcher, you get to know his nature, his or her nature, and then you should keep this thing in mind that you don't send him or her too many emails or too many texts that he or she becomes intimidated. This will ultimately end your research collaboration. Keep them updated on what you've been doing to advance on the current projects in hand. This is very important. Keep them updated. Always try to complement your international peers' skill set. This is something which you should realize at the very start of finding useful contexts and finding how to say the international research contexts which are meaningful for you and which are more important for you. If you are good at analysis, go for someone who is good at write-up. And if you are good at write-up, go for someone who is good at analysis. How can you know if someone is good at analysis or write-up? You can directly ask them, or you can just go into their publications and it will give you a glimpse on their skill set. If they have too many publications on new methodologies, new methods, and methodical journals, you will get to know that this guy is good in analysis. So you should have a good write-up if you want to collaborate with this one. Meet assigned deadlines and timetables. Stay patient, humble, polite, flexible, and always willing to learn and cooperate. These are basic things. We should instill these things in our personality, and these things are important in research as well. Don't stress too much on co-author ranks in the beginning. This is also very important. When we get international researchers on board, and if there is a team of researchers, 3-4 guys working on the same project, in the beginning, if this is our first or second project as an international collaboration, we should not stress too much on higher ranks in the co-author order. For example, we should not stress that I should be given the first author position or second author position, because in the beginning, this thing may intimidate your collaborators, your peers. Be careful while digging into your collaborators' context. This thing is also very tricky and very, how to say, important. Once you get someone on board, do not try to dig into his or her contacts with his or her collaborators, that he or she may feel that this guy is going after my contacts, and there is some people, they think differently. You can get it. Maintaining a continuous publication relationship with international researchers. Some points: learn your peers' nature with time and try to complement their skill set. These things we have discussed already. So how do you know their nature? You keep on doing collaboration with them, and with the passage of time, you know what kind of contact frequency they like bi-weekly, weekly, monthly, and what kind of task they like you to perform. So these things will help you to maintain a steady relationship. Try in-person meetup at some point. Try in-person meetup at some conferences if possible. It might be extremely helpful in a stable cooperation. Go to conferences, try to meet your international collaborator friends, and in-person meeting will definitely be important. Keep on adding relevant new contacts, but stay away from randomly adding too many people. It's okay to maintain a stable relationship with your collaborators, but if you don't add new contacts, you just keep on doing collaboration or research papers with just 1 or 2 authors. It's also not good for you. You go after new contexts, you learn new ideas, and you learn about equity, diversity, and you expand your scope of research. Always believe in diversity and continuous learning and change. This is also something very basic we should instill in ourselves as a young researcher. So in the end, I welcome you to collaborate with me as well. I have produced some research works related to how price is discovered in cryptocurrency markets and how these markets are interconnected with other traditional financial markets. And if you want to work on corporate innovation, green finance, energy finance, and how international financial markets work and how they are connected to each other, you are always welcome to collaborate with me as well. My email is given here at the start of this presentation. I would be more than happy to collaborate with you guys. That's all from my side. Thank you so much for having me, and good luck for your international collaborations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Najwa, for your very enlightening presentation. So I think we can summarize that what you've presented is extremely helpful to especially early stage researchers that are looking for international cooperation. And we can learn a lot about where we should start our approach and how to actually build strong connections, strong networks with international researchers. Thank you. And I also would like to remind the audience that if you have any questions for Dr. Najwa or Dr. Hutomo in the coming session, you can always ask them on the chat, on the comment section, or you can raise your hand at the upcoming Q&A session, and we expect that to have a lively discussion in the coming Q&A session. Thank you, Dr. Najwa, once again. And now I would like to welcome our second speaker, Dr. Hutomo, with the theme of increasing the paper citation.
Okay. Yes. So hi, Gabriel. Can I share my screen directly?
Sure.
Okay. Let me check. Should be this one. So now you should be able to see my screen, right?
Yes. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Okay, thanks, Gabriel, again for the introductions and also for welcoming me. And good morning. No, good afternoon, I think, because here in München, we are still in the morning. So good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Dr. Najwa, and I would like to continue actually in the discussions later on. But first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Hutomo Suryawasisto, but if you find me on the street or you find me in a conference, just call me Ito, ITO, right? So, I mean, for those who are learning about material science, it is not indium tin oxide, but just ITO for short. And the title is slightly different with the ones that what Gabriel just mentioned. So here, I put the title "Publishing Scientific Paper in high impact journals, and why bother?" So that why should we publish in highly reputable journals? So that we will discuss about that. And the contents will be divided into two parts. The first one related to the terminologies in the scientific publishing. So I'm sure that most of you probably have known what are impact factor and also H index and Q index, but then for being able to discuss in more fluid way, so that I would like to introduce like all those three terminologies first. Then afterwards we will come to the main topic related to the increasing the paper citations. Okay, so what is the impact factor actually? I mean, you have heard this term actually for many times, I'm sure, right? So that the impact factor, it's basically an index. So it's a number actually calculated by the Clarivate, so the company, that reflect the annual average number of citation of articles published in the last 2 or 5 years in a given journal. And it is all indexed by the Clarivate Web of Science. So that there are two numbers basically. If you come to the journal website, you will take a look on there. So for example, here I put the example from the Nature Communication Scientific Reports. So they normally put two numbers there. So the 2-year impact factor and 5-year impact factor. And how can we calculate actually that number? So that's just pretty easy. So probably like elementary high school student can also do that. So, and that's something that if you would like to calculate, for example, so there is a journal called Science Mind in this case, and we would like to calculate the impact factors in 2022. So that what you have to do is basically you take a look on the total number of the articles published in that journal, basically like in 2020, and also the total number of those articles published in 2021. So, and you must sum up that one, like the total article, and then you put it, let's say here, as a denominator. And but then the total number of the citations you need to add as well from those index journals, and then you just sum up also with the sorry that yes. So one is the A here, the journal in this year, and also the second one, the journal in 2021. So afterwards you will end up also with this number. And the second one is related to the Q index. So that, I mean, for most Indonesian researchers or Indonesian students, they love to say about these things. So I don't know, Dr. Najaf, it is in China or in Pakistan, probably like, I mean, I'm not sure whether they will be talking too much about this one, but then this is one of the things that most of the people or most of the scientists will be talking too much before publishing the paper even. So we are talking about the Q1 until Q4. So what does that mean actually, or what do they mean actually? The Q1 is basically they are a top journal, so they're the top 25. And then afterwards, you can take a look here to divide it into 25% or divide it by 4. And the Q1 meaning like this is the top 25% of the journals, so ranked by this the Shimago journal rank and country rank. And afterwards, the Q4 is basically like the bottom 25%. So whether it is important or not, we will take a look later on, right? So, but what you need to know actually for its field, so you need to consider whether it is Q1 or Q2, because for example here, for example in one journal, it can be the case that even though the impact factor is quite low, I mean, compared to this Langmuir, for example, but then like this journal is indexed or kind of like is ranked by different fields as a Q1 journal, right? But then if you take a look on the Langmuir here, even though like the impact factor is slightly higher than this, like the applied physics later, and it is ranked as a Q2 journal in the electrochemistry. But then if you take a look on the condensed matter physics field, so that it is ranked in the Q1. So that if you are talking with the persons, you might ask them, let's say that. So if people are talking about the Q1 stuff, so that in or on which field that basically the journal is ranked, so that you can ask about that. But this impact factor and quartile, so this Q1 until Q4, do they really matters actually for us, and should we care about them? And most probably yes, for some scientists, but for some people or some researchers, especially here in Europe or in Germany, before knowing about all conditions in Indonesia, I didn't know about Q1 and stuff, because people don't care actually here. So that when I'm about to publish, when I was a PhD student in Germany, so that people just say like, okay, if you want to go publish in a journal, so we should publish to the journal in which like most people read actually, right? So that paper can be also read, and also afterward can be also cited. And the next term is related to the kind of like personal achievement with a quote, right? So that the Edge index, so on the Edge index you might have heard also many times, is basically the largest number of the articles that a researcher has published that have been cited n times. So meaning like, if you take a look on the on this graph, so in this graph it tells us like the Edge index of 6, so that your published article should be ranked first, right, from the top, let's say with the highest citation until like the lowest citations. So, and then you will see like the number of the citations here. For example, here the 6, so that the most or the 6 most highly cited article have been cited at least 6 times. So it can be the case for example, like the first paper here in the journal. So you got the citations almost 25, but it doesn't matter. So because anyway, so you will end up with the Edge index of 6. So that's basically how we rank the Edge index. Who actually found it? So this guy actually found it. So that makes all this scientific communicating also becoming more complicated, I would say. But yeah, I mean, this is something that we need to have, because normally like people love to have rank, right? So that, I mean, if you apply for a job, for example, I don't know in China, but what I heard from my colleague in China, so that most of the faculties there, they need to publish in very high impact journal, right? So that if you can publish in the Natures or you can publish in the Springer Natures, let's say that, it's almost 100% that you'll be able to become professor. That's what I heard from my friends in China as well. But I don't know, maybe Dr. Najas later on during the discussions can tell more about that, right? So, but that's something that we can argue, of course, but that's something that we have to accept, basically, in the scientific community. Okay, so that's the EDGE index, and it was introduced like back to 2005, actually. So it's not a long time ago, but almost like 2 decades ago. And my question would be like, should we really care about the EDGE index, right? So that sometimes for the scientists, it just gives us kind of like the good feeling, right? So that, well, it is just number, but that it gives us like a good feeling. And for example, like some people, they love to have money or they love to have status, right? So that they will be seen as kind of like high impact scientists or giving like the high impact into the community when they are seeing themselves having the high EDGE index in this case. But then be careful, because some people, I mean, they really do kind of like bad things, like how to boost kind of the citation. So for example, like doing kind of like extreme self-citations, which is not needed and which is not ethical in this case. So that we will learn later on how we can boost actually, or how we can increase like the paper citations without kind of like destroying all these the ethical rules, let's say. Because in several journals here, you may see there are always questions whether this EDGE index really works for ranking of the scientists, or it is still needed actually, I mean, to relate about the effective scientific impact of that researcher or scientist. And let's start with the Google Scholar. So this is something what we have already known, or most of scientists known, and then almost all the students, also researchers, they love to make such account. Is basically listing all the publication here. For example, this is my profile. What I would like to emphasize here, that just take a look on the citation, also on the EDGE index here, right? So that here, like with the EDGE index of 26, this citations number of around 2000s. And then now, if you take a look on the Scopus, and suddenly we got like different numbers here, right? So that you see here 23. So instead of 26, we got a 23, right? So, and the citation itself as well, it is different. And then the question is like, why they are different actually, right? So that which one should I trust? So that they're basically different database, and then they're basically different company, and then they have different algorithms, and then they do have different sources, right? So that people love to show like on Google Scholar because it's easy, and then it is also in terms of like the visualization, it is good, because you can also hear, for example, just sort by the number of citation, or sort them, let's say that by the year, so that you can easily link with everything. And instead of manual for Scopus, to me or to some researchers, like the user interface here is a bit, not really annoying, but then it's difficult to handle, even though like this is giving us also more kind of information. So they have more, I would say, good data, and then you can include or you can exclude also self-citation in this case, and then you can calculate like how many documents you have, and then how many actually documents have already cited your paper actually, right? So that gives us kind of indication, so where we are actually. And they also give also some topics here, so that you'll be able to know like at what keywords actually those guys actually have in their papers. All right, and now the question is whether we should trust in the Google Scholar or Scopus. So that there are numerous publications actually, numerous papers trying to investigate how good Google Scholar, how good Web of Science, or how good the Scopus is, right? So that what I can tell you here from these publications in the Journal of Informatics is basically the first one, what they found in the Google Scholar for nearly all citations found by the Scopus and also Web of Science. What does that mean? That means like almost all the citations in the Google Scholar, they can be found also. In Scopus, they can be found also in the Google Scholar. But then if you take a look on the light blue color here, like the citations in the Google Scholar, they don't belong, or they are not included in the Scopus, right? And why? The question is why. The thing is, regarding like where do the citation actually come from, and it turns out like those citations, so they are not only from the journal. So in half of the Google Scholars, so they found out like the unique citations, so they are not from the journals. Instead of journal, they are from thesis, for example, dissertations, book chapter, proceedings, and also unpublished material, as well as other document types, right? So that because the thing is, in the Google Scholar, whatever you try to put in the Google, so they can be also indexed, right? So that you can put also like your report, your practicum report, or your internship report. It can be also indexed in your Google Scholar profile. So you have to be really careful by noticing like the profile of the researcher or scientist in this case. And even though like the majority is in English, but then still like they found like quite a good number here, almost 40%. They are not in English. So for example, I will give you an example without telling like the name of the researcher, but I will give you in the next slide, like in the real example, how the Edge index from the Google Scholar can drop drastically, almost half of it, or even more than half of it, right? So, and for example, here in the Google Scholar also was found to have kind of like much lower scientific impact in this case. So it is all still arguable. So you might think like, okay, then all on the Google Scholar, I'm gonna do everything for the Google Scholar. Then I'm gonna show like Google Scholar, right? So, but then I'm gonna show you this one. For example, these all publications actually, they are all in Indonesian, right? So this all in Bahasa. You might see here Belajar microcontroller, tip and trick microcontroller, and everything. Take a look at the number. The citation here like 1,000, right? The S index like 15. What about his or her citations and also the S index in the Scopus? It drops a lot. So here from 15, it drops to 7, right? So it gives you like kind of feeling like which actually source that you should believe. In terms of like the belief, like everyone can believe everything, right? But what I will not tell you is like which one is like more trustworthy. So, and it depends on how you see like where do the citation come from actually, and the citations. So it drops a lot. Let's say here 1,000 and here like 158. And I tried to take a look on the first rank publication here, so that this Belajar microcontroller, blah blah blah. So I clicked this one, and then what I saw is that like the citations come from the reports, the bachelor thesis, and also some kind of national report. So that that might also deceive us actually. What I call it deceptive metrics in this case. Because sometimes you just cannot believe the number. If you want to see whether this guy or that guy has already published a very good journal, and you need to take a look. Really, you need to check like what publication do they have, and I'm going to show you later on like all the criticisms regarding the Edge index. Therefore, when I was given like the topic about like increasing paper citation, actually I don't really care about actually like how to push like the Edge index profile, because anyway like it comes naturally. If you do the good research, if you do a good publication, your index will be increasing naturally anyway. So there is no kind of like recipe, but I'm going to go for it, right? So. But wait a minute. So that probably it is just Edge index. It's just a number. Really, it's just a number. We're gonna see here. So the criticism of the Edge index. The first one is if you are a professor and then you have not published much over your many years, and your Edge index might be the same or could be the same as a young professor, or as a PhD, or the same as that of PhD student, for example, or postdoc, who has published, for example, in in very good journal, for example, Nature Communications, Nature Nanotechnology, or Nature Human Behavior and stuff, right? So they can be easily cited. And that's really related to the career stage. So you just cannot compare like the S index between one people to the other people without knowing like their background. So that's pretty much like kind of like deceiving metrics, right? And the second one is which author you are. So Dr. Najas was mentioning about that actually. During the collaboration, you don't like kind of, act kind of like the picky persons. Like, okay, I want to get like kind of the first author. I want to get like the last author. I want to get like the middle author. Nobody wants the middle author, right? Either you want to be the first or you want to be the last, actually. But the thing is that in your papers that has been ranked actually in the Google Scholar or Scopus, actually they don't care where your position is, right? Whether you are like the first author or you are like the 12th author or you are the 10th author, right? And they just kind of like how much citations does that paper actually have? And that's something that what I had actually. So there are some people like they are really proud of themselves because they say like, okay, this is my paper. But I just take a look on the paper and then he contribute, of course, like I mean, like the authors who is listed as the co-authors, let's say, in the co-author list, they have, or she have to, let's say, contribute, right? So that otherwise it is like unethical or it's kind of like misleading publications. So, but again, to me, it is a bit unfair, let's say, that if you compare, let's say, directly one by one, right? So that it can be the case like he just, right? So he just doing the analysis or he just do kind of like setting up the measurement, right? Still, like the contribution is there, but it is rather low. And then you compare with the ones who are doing almost everything, doing the experiment, doing all the analysis, writing up the paper. And of course, this is also one of the ways, like what Dr. Najaf has already said, that's basically setting up like the large collaboration with very well-known researchers or kind of like top researchers, your edge index will most probably go up, right? So that and your paper will be suddenly read by many people because that guy is sitting as the last author. But that's kind of like myth actually. I can prove as well. Like I mean, if you are coming from the village or kind of like from the country in which like don't have very good reputable reputations, you still have kind of like good paper in the end. The next ones regarding like research quality. Okay, most of the people, they are talking about like the number of the publications, but some people or some researchers, they care about the quality. They publish only once a year, but they want to publish in very good journals. So they have kind of like the favorite publisher. For example, they love to publish in Nature or Science or such stuff, and they just want to go there. Otherwise, they don't want to publish there. So they want to keep increasing. But then some researchers, they don't really care. Okay, as long as I publish, I can cite also my papers, and then I can cite also the papers from the other co-authors or the other collaborators. That's fine. So that's something that you need to think of, right? So that's something like the criticism on the edge index. Because the thing is, if you are doing the collaboration, if you're setting up with the collaborators, right? Most probably the other collaborators or the other partners, they will also cite that paper in which they have been written with you together, right? So that it will boost up also your citations, definitely. So that's also one of the tricks. Well, tricks kind of, right? If you're a magician, we call it trick. And the journal qualities, so that was also something that has not been taken actually for calculating the edge index in this case. And your contribution to science. So that's something that you have to be really careful of. So the first one, it only takes your publication into account, not whether you are an active member or of the scientific community, or whether you have so many kind of students, let's say, to be mentored with, right? Or you are performing peer reviews, or you are actually working in the company, producing products in which they're all basically kind of giving good impact also on the society, right? Or whether you take a part in scientific discussion. So what I want to tell you is that being a scientist is not only about the publications, right? So that you need to give like the impact to the society. And that contributions can be many things. And then if you are talking about the edge index, of course, being a scientist, you can be proud of having kind of like the high edge index, but it means nothing actually if you don't contribute really to the community. So but then some might argue this is something like similar to the kind of like quote, like, okay, man, money cannot buy happiness. Sure, money might not buy happiness, but it's better crying actually in a Ferrari or in Lamborghini, right? So that rather than you are kind of like under the bridge. What does that tell us actually? So there's some people, they love to see like the good number of their H index. So that's something that I want to emphasize in this case, right? So, all right. So now regarding the increasing the paper citation. So disclaimer first, there is no magic. There is no trick for the paper citation. I believe that some people maybe like now are smiling or laughing because I put these pictures, because maybe Dr. Najas is a bit confused why that picture. So there is kind of like the commonly discussed or kind of shown in many gossips in Indonesia, because this the left one with the red hair is basically the magician, right? So that guy is trying to open up actually all the tricks done by that guy. So that guy is saying that he doesn't use any tricks, let's say. Instead of like he's having kind of like supernatural energy or superpower, let's say that. For example, like I mean, to give the medicine or whatsoever. So, but then if you are kind of like the critical persons, and then you're saying like, okay, that I know all the tricks actually, but do you think like I'm gonna tell you all the tricks or the magic in this case? So there is no magic at all. So the slides that I'm gonna tell you or I'm gonna show you later on. So there is no magic for paper citation increasing, right? So increase. So let's start with this one. So that if the people ask me, let's say, Ito, how can we have kind of like the good publication with the good citations or high citations? So it comes everything from the high quality research, right? So what I want to tell you is like the bad writing can undermine good science, but no amount of good writing can disguise bad science, right? So that if you do the science really bad, or you do kind of like the bad research, so don't dream on that you will get kind of like good publications, right? But then good science, or you are doing good research, but in the end, you cannot write. You don't have any skill to write the paper. You cannot tell the story. You cannot discuss about your research results. So you can end up also with the bad publications. So that's what I want to tell you actually. Because sometimes we think like, okay, now I do something, then I believe that I'm a scientist and I can do everything. I can publish in a very good journal. So this is new. Nobody has done that. Maybe I'm gonna get the Nobel in this case, right? So be careful if you are doing or you are planning the research here. So the research, normally, if you publish a paper, normally the easy way of the editor or the reviewer will say to reject your paper is about the novelty, right? Now the question is, how novel is novel, right? So there's some students, I have no students, and then they are coming to me, Ito, this is very good. So I've done this. I believe nobody has done this one. So and then show me then the results and also your methods. Afterwards, it takes me only a few minutes to Google up, let's say, and then I found like so many papers related to that research and also to that methods, right? So sometimes that you haven't read a lot actually to be able to know like the state of the art. It is difficult for you to build kind of the scientific or to fill in the scientific gap between like between the papers in the literatures. So that's something that you need to work on. But I don't want to discuss more into detail like how to publish very good journal in this case. But I want to tell you is like the sequence in here, so that you need to do like the research planning, then afterwards the research executions. Wait a minute, in terms of like the research planning here, it has to be novel, interesting. Sometimes I read also in the paper like people write something like this. So far, nobody or no research group has done this one. Nobody has done something or anything. It doesn't mean that that's worth it to be investigated, right? So you have to understand. It can be the case like, I mean, why it is not investigated? Because it is actually a crap right? It is like waste. It is rubbish. I mean, nobody will believe that that's gonna work, right? So that's something that you need to think of. So so that don't just kind of like directly 100% believe. If something has not been done, that you are going for it directly, right? So the next one, during the execution. So you have to be really ethical. So normally, if you are doing kind of like a medical research, you really need to submit kind of like the ethics there. So the ethics reports you need to do. Then after all, it has to be thorough, reproducible, of course. So because it can be the case, like, okay, you publish something, but it is maybe like, this is your lucky day, right? You have the good results. But next day or next week, you try to do the same experiment, you will end up with the different results, right? So that's something that you need to do actually during the research. The next one, data interpretation. So it has to be valid. You have to be really honest. Let's say they're telling if it is bad, then saying that bad. But I'm afraid that if I say that this is a kind of like bad results, so the reviewer might reject my paper. Don't worry. So I publish also quite sometimes also some bad results, but I'm able to explain actually why that result was really bad, right? And if you discuss like in the scientific way, for example, in my field, in the material science or in nanotechnology, we discuss about the physics, right? The physics phenomena, why that result might occur. So that's something that we need to think of. The next one, the publication. It has to be logical. It has to be in a good shape, in the good presentations. That comes me also to the next slide. If you are given kind of like the raw prawn, right? If you are going to the master chef competitions, right? So that you have the same ingredients, you have the same materials, but do you think like they will have also all like the same food at the final state? No. It can be the case that you will end up with this A or with this B, right? I mean, to me, writing a scientific paper, it's like just cooking. You can have like the same ingredients, you can have the same recipe, you can have the same kitchen, but it will end up in the end with the different results or with the different quality of the presentations. That's something that you need to really practice, so that you have to have like the excellent story, excellent figures, excellent English writing skill. So that that might come with the experience. So maybe like the early scientists, they will find a difficulty to write very good paper, but as time goes by, so you will learn how to write a paper, you will learn how to read papers, and then afterwards you can also compete with other scientists, let's say, to publish in a very good journal. But before having the good presentation, as I said, you have to have the valid experiment or simulations result first, right? So otherwise, it means nothing. So for example, if I change the prawn here with the other stuff, the result will be different. Of course, it will be different. If it is having less protein than raw prawn, so the quality of the presentation also will be influenced in this case. So therefore, like the raw materials and also the presentation, both should be really in the high quality in this case. And now regarding the journal, so most of people ask me, let's say that Ito, so I'm confused what journal should I choose, right? So, and this slide, it just gives you kind of like the example of the publishers. It doesn't mean that the other publishers, they are not listed in here, that they are not good, but it just tells us, let's say, that from this Frontiers paper, so they are all top 20 publishers, right, by volume. For example, here, Elsevier is a giant publishers, we know it, and Springer Nature, previously Springer and also Nature, but now together to found this Springer Nature. So they have been in the second position in this case. And you might have noticed here, there are two different colors. The first one is basically like the gray one. The second one is the red one. What do those colors actually mean? So the gray one is basically is the traditional publishers, meaning like they offer you the hybrid and also the fully open access journals. So hybrid meaning like as a authors, you can choose whether it can be open access or it can be also as usual, let's say that. So meaning like it is not open access, meaning like the reader who love to or who like to read that papers, he or she has to have the subscription first to the journals. So that's meaning like in the hybrid. And what about the open access? The open access is basically the reader can freely download and also read that paper. So as the name might recall in this case. And to increase your paper citation, so now in Europe, most of the projects actually funded by the government or by the European Commissions, they actually put kind of like the requirements, like the journals on the papers that have been published in the journal, they have to be really in open access conditions. Meaning what? Meaning it has to be visible to any of reader, right? So that, of course, like open access, it costs money for the authors and also for some big publishers. They charge you really a lot. They charge you really a lot. For example, Nature, for example, many of papers, they charge you like 50 million rupiah. So I'm talking about in the Indonesian currency. So it is more or less like 3,000 or 4,000 even, like 4,000, 5,000 euro or dollar. Now dollar and also euro is kind of like the same. Therefore, that you need to consider about that. So that the factor to be considered, if you choose the journal, there are several factors. So for example, the audience, whether it has to be really going to the specific audience, like really in your field, or it can be also like the multidisciplinary audience in this case. The topic, you can also choose the types of the publications. It can be also the short communication, short paper, and or later it can be also on the original article. It can be also review articles regarding the reputations on the journals. And then this is probably something that is relevant also for you, like personal requirements. Some Indonesian scientists, I know, they urge to publish pretty soon because of the deadline, right? So some people, they ask me, let's say that, Ito, do you have like the journal in which like it can publish only within a month or within 2 weeks, let's say? There are some publishers or there are some journals that can give you also this kind of capability because they are doing the review process just pretty fast, right? But then it is up to you in the end, right? So that you can choose like any of those journals, and then as compensations later on, you will also end up whether you will have like good citation or not. But what I can tell you is like the open access papers, it gives you the possibility to have also higher read or higher number of the paper, like the citations in this case. Again, there is no magic. It takes time. All the process takes time. So, for example, here in one of the recently published journal papers regarding the COVID here, regarding the electronic notes. So it took us like 8 months, right? From the November we submitted, and then it's accepted actually in July. But that durations actually, all the process starting from the submission until the acceptance, that exclude like doing the research, making the scientific ideas, making the paper outline, and as I said, doing the research and writing the manuscript, and especially if you love to do the procrastinating, right? Just try to delay. So that actually exclude those points. So just be careful. So you have to be really patient, let's say, when you are about to submit your manuscript into very good journals in this case. And the next one, review articles. So I know some scientists, they love to write review articles. Why? Because the review articles, they tend to be highly cited actually. So therefore, like they keep writing a review paper. But for me, if you ask me, if you ask my opinion, just don't forget to write also your original papers. All right. So don't be known as a scientist who always write review papers. Okay, he's a good writer, but he's only writing the review paper. Whether it's good or not, it's up to you. But to my honest opinion, so that you have to balance between the original papers and also the review papers. So the review papers really, for example, here, I wrote the review paper here as a first author. So back to 2019, in the end of 2019, now it has already the citation above 100. So that give us kind of like feeling like the review paper can be cited, let's say that tremendously in this case. And now the next one is you can work on the hot topics. For example, the COVID-19, right? So that since 2 years ago, and most of the people, they are shifting their research into like the COVID-19. Like Dr. Najaf also have published so many papers also related to the COVID-19. And I published also the research related to the nanotechnology, also the AI related to COVID-19. Because of what? Because actually from this report, actually from the Clarivate and also from the other journal as well, so the impact factors have been increased actually because of the COVID research. So this is one of the cause why almost all the journals in this world actually they got increased, let's say that, so that they got increase in terms of like the impact factors. So, and it is stated, like officially stated also by the company, by the Clarivate. So basically, like if you are working in the hot topic, so your paper will be likely cited by other people. But again, this is kind of like you have to know like the timeline, right? So that if you miss like the moment, meaning like probably like people will not read your paper, but still, I mean, if you are in time, let's say, then probably that your paper will be read by many scientists, and then your paper also will be cited. Now coming to the self-citation. So there is a question whether we are allowed to do self-citation or not. It's a bit tricky actually. So you can cite your earlier publications in your current paper or in your new paper if only they are truly relevant to your new paper, right? So don't mislead kind of like, okay, so Ito has already said to me like, okay, self-citation is allowed. But then some people, they just do it kind of like crazy. So they just cite papers without reading, and then just they cite the paper, the amount of the paper of their own publications, just crazily. For example, here there is also a report from Nature. So hundreds of the extreme self-citing scientists revealed in the new database. Let's say, why do they do this actually? Because of course they want to boost their edge index in this case. And then I'm really sad actually by seeing like our country is there actually listed as one of like the countries in which like we do this kind of self-extension in not in a good manner way in this case, right? So in the median quarter of the self-citation in this case. And the next one, as Dr. Najaf also has already said, like the promotion of your article can be also done in the social media. So ResearchGate, Facebook, Twitter, if you love to tweet something, or Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, even you can make also like YouTube channel in this case, and also Mendeley. And by publishing that one, it's not that you are kind of showing off your capability. That means like you spread out also your paper to be able to inform the people like, okay, you are doing in that field, because that's really happening. Because I love to publish my paper, for example, on Facebook or on Instagram. The thing is that I got cited also by some followers and also by some friends on Facebook. Like they read that paper and then they published a journal papers, and then they cite my paper. So and then one of the guys said to me like, okay, then I know that you are working in this one, and then I read your paper. It seems that it is important, and then it is relevant to my work. Therefore, like I said, your paper, right? So, but then just be careful, because sometimes regarding the citations, it can be the case like they don't really read your paper. They just want to put it into your introductions, right? So then this is common thing, right? I mean, you don't read like the whole parts of the paper, but then just randomly choose the paper and then put it into the introduction. But that's not the good way. So the next one is the international conference. So that's something that you need to do as well as a scientist. So you can go to the international conference and then present your work over there, and so that other people can be aware of your research. And but then this is also the commonly happening also the commonly kind of like happening in Indonesia, or maybe in other country as well. So that some scientists, they create their own journals, they create their own conferences, right? They gather their friends, they are coming to that conferences, they publish together, they review together, and then they publish their papers together. So this is really unethical. So that please, if you are still young, don't do that. So I will suggest that you like follow like the good path, just try to compete in the international way, right? So that's something that I can also suggest in this case. All right, maybe that I'm already over time, but I would like to close the take-home message here. Hopefully that what you have already heard from me, hopefully that you can learn. There is no magic to increase the paper citations. As I said, always, no magic, no trick. So it's all based on your practice, right? Read more, write more again, or maybe you can drink more coffee if you need to, right? So then afterwards, it's all about like kind of like the repeated cycle, I would say. Okay, after the last slide, I would like to thank for everybody who has already listened, and thanks to Bumi Scholar also for inviting me to give these presentations. And this is from Science Minds. If you are interested to attend as well, there is activity by Science Mind in related to the postgraduate bootcamp, so that if you to know like how to do good research or how to be successful in the postgraduate studies, you might also enter up also this forum. All right, so that's all from me. Thank you very much, and I'm pretty much welcome for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ito, for the very enlightening discussion. I see that our audience here are already very excited to ask questions to both Dr. Najaf and Dr. Ito. Perhaps the operator can also spotlight Dr. Najaf, and I'll probably start taking questions. For the audience, you can either raise your hand or you can type your question into the comment box, and I'll try to distribute the questions equally between those two. So perhaps I'll start with the first person who raised their hand, Hafsati Nur Latifah.
Sorry, I try to do you can hear my
Yeah, sure. So we can hear your
oh yeah, very good. I would like to thank you for Dr. Najaf and Dr. Ito, very informative and inspiring. And I would like to ask two questions to Dr. Ito. So my question is, how we can measure whether our research is good enough for highly or reputable journal? And that is my first question. That in last week in our mentoring session, the mentor is said that her journal, in her case, that her journal at least can publish in Q3 journal, and actually it makes me I curious at how she can very confident with her research that at least it will publish in it good enough for Q3, and at the end of the day, after good good experience, and after 2 years, maybe 1 or 2 years later, she made it. She put her research in Q3, but I feel curious how she can get that confidence. And so the second question is, actually I just graduated for my master degree, and my supervisor said that my research at least can publish in Q2 journal, and I feel curious how my supervisor can measure that kind of thing. And my question is, it has been 6 months from my graduation, and right now in our lab, the research is even go farther, and the result is more is again in my lab, my colleague can get better results than what I did in before, and it makes me a little bit lost motivation because to write my thesis into journal format. And I would like Mr. Ito's opinion. Is it still relevant for me to write my publication into journal? That's my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Perhaps Dr. Ito can answer the question.
All right, so thanks, Hafzatin, right? So that Ms. Hafzatin for the question. So there are three questions, right? If I got it right. So the first question is the question is, how do we know actually whether our research is good or good enough, let's say, right? So as I said, so that if you are working on something or you are working in a specific field, so my request, if I have a PhD student, so the first thing that I want to ask them actually, like, you should be able to identify, like, at least like 5 godfathers, 5 people, 5 scientists who are actually kind of playing in this field actually, like they are kind of like the godfathers in which they manage to have good publications in that field, and how advanced actually the field has been. Because the thing is, I said, some people, because they haven't read a lot, so they thought like what they are doing is novel, but it is actually not, right? So, and therefore that for being able to know like whether our research is good or not, or it is interesting or relevant or not, then we should be able to read papers, of course, and then we should be able to identify the research question. So that's actually like the most important thing. So if you are doing research and then you don't know like what question that you would like to answer, you are going everywhere, right? So you are kind of like the blind people, and then you don't know where you have to go, right? So that some people, they just like, okay, I'm gonna do research. Okay, what research? I don't know, Ito. Okay, so what materials, what topics? I don't know, let's see. So that's kind of students. So I was really confused. So that it will end up also with a couple of months, and in the end, like he or she will be doing nothing, right? So, and then how we can identify like how our research is good is just that, as I said, there's really so many papers, right? And we will be able, let's say that, okay, my research is good enough, and then I'm going to publish in the good journal. So, and then how can she said, okay, get the confidence, right? So that your mentor actually from the last week, she got published in the Q3 journal, and then how can she get the confidence, let's say, that to be able to publish in the Q3 or even Q1 journal? So that I take a quote from the Kobe Bryant actually. So that confidence comes from the preparation. So that's from every people. So that you'll be confident if you have been prepared, right? So that if you have never written any paper, again, this is probably like the feeling that most of the early scientists or the kind of the graduate student actually in the beginning have, right? So that they don't have the confidence because they are not prepared enough actually, and because they have not written any paper yet, and then they have not read so many papers yet, right? So, and then that confidence actually just at least like you can give a try. If you fail, then you can submit to the other journal. So that's something that I always told to my PhD students. So that if you want to publish the paper, at least just prepare like at least 3 journals, 3 target journals first. So that put like kind of your favorite one, the second favorite one, the third favorite one. Why? Because if you get rejected in here, so you don't have to be going to the blue sessions, you know, like, okay, Ito, I don't want to do anything. My paper is just got rejected, so I want to sleep all the day. I don't want to do research anymore and blah, right? So that, but you just need to move on. Of course, you need to kind of like take the kind of like the deep breath. Then afterwards, just try to see like what the reviewer comments actually said to you. Then you need to work on it, right, to improve the quality and so on. So the more comments, let's say, from the peers that you got, then you will get also the confidence whether you like your research results will be good enough also to be published in such a good journals. So that's actually that's you have to do actually, or what she can do actually. And again, like the third questions, I think it's related to the second question, like how can your supervisor actually measure whether your paper is, relevant or can be published in the Q2 journal, right? So that's something that some students also don't understand in the beginning. Even I said to my student, I believe your results can be published in the Nature portfolio. They don't believe, right? So this is just pretty crap, right? I mean, this is like easy thing. This is only the pictures and stuff. But I said, no, I got a feeling that it can be published there. So because the thing is that I got the experience because I've been dealing with so many reviews. I've been invited as a reviewer. I've become also like the guest editor. I become the editor and stuff. So that I've been going through all this process, right? So and then that PhD student or that postgraduate student, they just started. When I was also when I was a postgraduate student, when I was a PhD student, I also didn't know. I always ask like my mentor. I always ask my supervisor. So what journal that we should go for, right? Because the thing is, as I said, in Europe or in Germany, people don't really care about the Q1, Q2, Q4, Q3, but they publish into the journal in which like their scientific community read that journal, right? So that it doesn't matter if it is like Q2 or Q1. So it doesn't mean that scientist cannot go for the Q1, but it is because like that scientist loves to publish in that journal in which like that research community or scientific community love to publish and also love to read all the papers or all the articles inside the journal. Therefore, it becomes useful in the end, right? So, and you said like it has been like 6 months from the graduations and then results have been more and then you are now lacking of the confidence whether like my results is now it's just like kind of out of date or can I still publish these results or not. That is like the common problem actually. Well, not really problem, but then common thought from the PhD student or for the students. But believe me, if you already finished written let's say writing your manuscript will find its place. That's something that I believe in. So the first thing first is basically finish your manuscript first, because overthinking, it is not overdoses, right? So that is overthinking that you that sometimes brings you nowhere actually, because you think like, okay, but my colleagues has better results. How can I relate that one? So that if she can or he can publish, let's say that earlier than me, then my publication just become crap, right? So that it is not useful anymore. So that's probably like your thought. But yeah, this is the way when you are writing. This is not explicitly kind of like written rule, but I would say, while writing your introductions, this is one of the tips that I can tell you, is that not try to compare with kind of like kind of very high research results in which like you cannot compete with. For example, if I'm talking with my field actually, so that we are talking about, for example, the sensors. The sensor has kind of like the sensitivity of 1, or sorry, like 10, right? So 10 something. Then your research results actually show that your sensor sensitivity doesn't reach that level. It is lower than that, right? You still can compare, of course, but then if it is like a huge gap, so the reviewer might say like, okay, you are doing the same methods, you are doing the same sensors, but why your result is just really shit? I'm sorry, but then that's something that really the reviewer will say about that. But what you can do is that you can explain why your research result is in these situations, in these conditions, right? So, because sometimes like the reviewer will also suggest you some publications or some papers in which they love to see like how good your knowledge is about like the scientific community. For example, they will say like, okay, you are doing this one, why don't you cite this one? Why don't you cite this paper? Because this paper tell us, let's say, that more thorough study and then better methods, also better results. But still, you still can publish your paper, I believe. So that's what I can say.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ito, for the comprehensive answer. So I think we can move to the next question. So we have a question in the chat box from Mr. Ibrar Hassan from Pakistan. So the question is to Dr. Najaf, how to write an effective research proposal?
Well, how to write an effective research proposal? It depends on which field, in which field you are working. For example, if you're working in the lab, Dr. Ito can, I think, respond well. And if you are working in social sciences, then for writing an effective research proposal, first of all, you should know the significance of your topic. The topic you're choosing must have some practical and social significance. And when you select the topic, it must be novel as well, nobody else, or at least there should not be available so many papers on the same kind of topics. So you come up with some significant topic where there is some research gap. You write a research proposal starting from its importance, its background, its significance, and then you add the methods. How do you expect to carry out your research activities, and what results do you expect to achieve, and how much funding do you require, and how much time it's going to take, and how other resources you need. And all of these things combined with some references at the end, it will make a good research proposal. Again, it depends on the field in which you are working. Your topic within social sciences also, there is a lot of variety, and depends on your supervisor as well, depending on his area of interest as well, what he likes, what he expects from you. So all of these things keeping in context, you can come up with a good research proposal.
Okay, thank you to Dr. Najaf. I hope that answers the question. That was really comprehensive. The second, next, I would like to call Iro Masruro to open your camera and ask the question.
Sorry, I can't open my camera.
Okay, sure. It's okay, just continue.
Then for the occasion, I would like to thanks to Dr. Ito and Dr. Najaf for the insightful material. I want to ask to Dr. Ito. I'm a undergraduate student who want to be a scientist. I want to ask how to find how to be persistent in increase our mental as scientists to give a good and impactful research. Thank you.
Thank you. Perhaps Dr. Ito can answer the question.
All right, thanks, Iro, for the question. So actually, like how to build a good mentality, right? So good mentality to become a scientist. Just like other job, actually, the scientist is job. To my opinion, researcher is job. I mean, it is like decision whether you go for it or not, right? So you have to be understand. I mean, you have to understand like all the circumstance, like all the need, all the requirements for being a scientist. That's the first of all, because some people like they love to have the results, but they don't want to work hard, right? So that they don't want to stay in the lab. I mean, for my case, I mean, in my field, so they just want to, they love to see the papers. They love to see their name on the papers, but they would like to work, let's say, as low as possible, or as few as possible. So that's something that need to be changed, actually. Like the mentality is basically, if you want to become a scientist, that you need to work hard, actually, right? So, and the first thing first is basically you need to understand like how to do the good science, because there is no special recipe, I would say. Like, I mean, if people would like to build the mentality, because in the end, could you imagine like being a scientist, for example, or you're doing research, you love to publish paper, or you would like to publish a paper. You have spent like the whole of your time, let's say, by sacrificing your time, your family, everything, right? Then afterwards you write a paper, so it needs it takes like 3 months or even 6 months, and then after a year, starting from your research, actually it is rejected, and then the reviewer just say like, okay, kind of like not really bad words, but it's kind of like discouraging you. This is something that you need to understand, right? So that's always the mentality that you need to build, right? So I could tell a story also about my friend when I was a PhD student. I got one friend, he's a German, and he's really good in the lab. Let's say that he can do everything in the lab. He can produce like good results in the lab, but in the end, like he said to me, Ito, I don't want to be a scientist. Why? He just got rejected for his second paper, and then he just kind of like makes he swear himself he don't want to submit anymore. So this kind of mentality is basically actually happening actually for some people. But if you are kind of having like the persistence, let's say, to work hard and to go for it, and yeah, just everything comes not just overnight, but it comes from like many years. So you build your reputation first. People say like standing on the giant shoulders, right? If you don't understand what you are doing, just talk to your mentors, to find your mentors, talk to them, let's say, and then learn. Even me myself right now, I mean, I have so many PhD students, but then still I keep learning. So I try to, let's say, not really save, but kind of like enlarge my research area by learning from other people, because I'm really open to the collaboration, for example, right? So that anyone who love to do the collaboration with me, I'm really open, even though it is from social science, it is from like the biology or from other fields, so that it can be also gather together. So it's really beneficial, and also really making impact also for the society. So that's what I can say actually.
Thank you, Dr. Ito. I hope that answers the question. I also would like to remind the audience that if you want to ask your question, you can ask your question now, either by raising your hand or by commenting on the chat box, because we don't really have much time left for the Q&A session, so make sure that your questions are answered. So next I'll go to Mr. Hisham. You can ask your question.
Thank you for the floor, Ms. Moderator. I have here 3 questions, one for Dr. Iqbal and and 2 others for Mas Ito. For Dr. Iqbal, can you share your very first experience when you were still a beginner in research building your collaboration with scientists that publish in big journal? Because I believe everybody starts somewhere, and I want to hear your story about how you start like collaborating with people that had more experience than you. Can you share us about that? And questions for Mas Ito. Before that, it's nice to see you here, Mas Ito.
Hi, Hisham.
Okay, yeah. First, my question for you is: does the citedness of a paper in a Scopus Index journal contributed in the H index that mentioned in Scopus? For example, I wrote a paper, and my paper is published in a Scopus Index conference, and then my friend, my peers from other university, he cited it, but later published the article in a journal that not yet indexed by Scopus. Let's say that only in Indonesia we know that Asinta. Will that influence the H index in Scopus? I asked this because in some journal in Indonesia, I found that they mention a metrics that say citedness in Scopus Index journal. And the second question is, I want to ask your experience working with Indonesian researchers. Is there any possibility that a publication can be funded from sources rather than government scholarship? Because I have a lot of peers who wrote a very good papers based on my professor's review, but they cannot publish because they don't have the fund, and rather they already submitted, and then after the deadline passed, they just let the paper be retracted again because the writer does not have any money or any fund to publish the paper. Is there any fund that comes from either philanthropic societies or industry, corporate, or social responsibility that you know? That's my second question. Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Hisham, for asking the questions. Perhaps we can start with Dr. Najaf.
Well, thank you, Isam, for your question. Your question was, how was my experience, the first collaboration, first international and significant collaboration? As I have stated earlier that I have used the same platforms that I have discussed in my presentation, like ResearchGate and Publon and LinkedIn. And my first significant international collaboration was with Ali Bori. This guy is very famous in international finance and international financial integration and financial communication. I have been using and reading a lot of his papers and always used to admire his work, and it was my dream to work with him. And once I achieved one significant publication in an ABS 3 ranked journal, that is International Review of Financial Analysis, and that gave me some confidence, and I contacted Ali Bori on ResearchGate for the first time. And I told him about my recent publication as a show of my capability, that I am capable enough that I can work with you. And I proposed some nice ideas to work with him and collaborate with him. And he gave me a positive response. He was helpful and he liked my idea. And instead of working on that project, he added me in other projects. And I've been using that link since then. I think it's been more than 2 years, and I have produced very significant works with him in journals like Annals of Operations Research and Journal of International Financial Markets, Institutions and Money, and Finance Research Letters. All of these are top-class journals in the field of finance. So my experience is like this. First, I achieved one significant publication that was in International Review of Financial Analysis that showed my capability to him, that I could do and I could achieve, I could work with him. And then I proposed a nice idea to him. And first of all, I had already identified him as a potential collaborator and a famous author in my field. So you can pick these things. First, I identified him, and then I made myself capable enough to work with him. And then third, I proposed some nice ideas. And fourth, I used the right platform where he was available. So this is kind of my experience.
Yeah, thank you. That suffices.
Thank you, Dr. Najaf. And next, I'll give the floor to Dr. Ito, and perhaps we can answer like one of the questions, because we are our time for Q&A stops at 3 p.m. Indonesia time, so we only have 2 to 3 minutes left. Thank you.
Okay, then I will. Okay, thanks, Gabriel. So thanks, Hisam. So hi again. We are meeting here. Well, yeah, I'm gonna answer in pretty much short way. So in the first one, I cannot tell actually. So I do apologize for that. But then what my feeling is that basically, as I said in the presentations, that the Scopus has their own kind of like the database, right? But that publication or that paper that has not been published in the Scopus index, let's say, is now, let's say, included in that citations, in your citation or not, I cannot tell. But what I can tell is that if it is in Google Scholar, so that most of the time, like almost every sources, let's say that they will be included. Even I noticed that, as I said, like all like the dissertation, thesis, and stuff, they are all also counted as a citation. So that's what I can tell. But really, like the source in which like their journal in the Scopus, they will include that one into your Edge index or not, I cannot tell. So the second one, it is interesting. So working with Indonesian researcher is interesting, to be honest. So yeah, you were talking about the source of money, actually, source of the fund, right? So is there any fund from resources other than government, for example? Because that's the real problem, actually. But then before answering your question, actually, so I will emphasize that that's related to the mindset, actually. So the mindset can be divided into 2 parts, actually. And the first one is for the authors. For the authors, we should think actually as an author, actually publishing paper or publishing journal paper is free, basically. Meaning what? Meaning that we can choose like the hybrid journal, so we don't have to go from the open access journal. So don't think like, okay, publishing paper that it costs a lot of money. Surely, if you want to go for the open access journal, right? Or if you want to choose like the open access for that hybrid journal, but if you don't have, you don't want to pay for any money, then you can choose like the hybrid journal. There are so many so many journals actually that you can choose, right? So you can select. So that, I mean, there is no reason. So I mean, there's something that what I had actually. So if some people come to me like, Ito, I don't have money, I cannot publish paper. So this is not all about money. I mean, it is all about the idea, and then you can write the paper and you can publish the paper. And but then the mindset of the publisher is the opposite, right? It is a vice versa. So the publisher will always think like, publishing paper costs something, right? Whether the reader or whether the author. So that's something that we need to have in our mindset. But to answer your questions, like, is there any fun from the from other people or philanthropy or whatsoever? It's difficult. But what I can tell you, if you are collaborating with a German university, for example, or German academicians, in some publishers, they have kind of an agreement. For example, if you are publishing in the Springer Nature, you don't have to pay anything. So you don't have to pay the 50 million euros. Sorry, the 50 million rupiahs, not euros. Then I've become rich. And the thing is that the agreement between the university in Germany with that publisher has been reached actually. So that lets you, if the corresponding author, but that's also okay. What I can tell you is there is no freelance, of course, right? Even though like I was saying like the publishing paper is free, but there is no freelance. But then in this case, what I can tell you is that the corresponding author has to be the scientist who is living or who is working in the German university. So that might be difficult because I know like some scientists have egos, right? So that therefore, like Dr. Naja said that, okay, don't be really picky in the beginning. You say like, I want to be the first, I want to be the last, I want to be the corresponding author. Don't do that. If you are doing the collaboration, especially with someone who you haven't known in the beginning, don't say that, right? So that they will be really bothered about that. So they will say like, who are you actually? You start collaborating with me, and I know you are asking for the first position, the second position, or kind of like the last positions, and especially also about the cost, right? So that's something that you need to discuss in right in the beginning, because so that like it gives us kind of like the directions where we have to submit our papers. So that's actually it, right? So if you know, okay, in the Indonesian researchers say, Ito, I don't have money. Okay, and then we choose like the hybrid one, and we decided right in the beginning who is the corresponding author. Okay, you are the corresponding author, or I'm the corresponding author. If you are the corresponding author, then we will choose the hybrid one. Or I'm the corresponding author, then I'll be responsible for all these papers, let's say, in terms of the correspondences, and then we can choose like the journal in which has the agreement with the German society or the German university. So that's what I can say.
Thank you, Dr. Ito, for your answer. I hope that answered all of Mr. Hisham's question. And also, there was a question from Mr. Muhammad Farul Rizal that we couldn't mention today, but thankfully Dr. Najaf had already helped answering the question that where citing papers are published. If any work citing your papers are published, you can always know about your citations from Google Scholar, regardless of whether they use Mendeley or not. So thank you for all the insightful questions and answers in the Q&A session. So before I close the main session, perhaps both of the speakers would like to give a short closing statement. We can start probably from Dr. Najaf Iqbal.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to be here, and I really enjoyed this session, especially insightful things Dr. Rosito has brought here, and I really enjoyed his way of presenting. It was like keeping you well involved, and he did not let me bore. It was very interesting.
Hopefully, Dr. Najaf.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, all.
Thank you so much for the closing statement. And next we perhaps can move to Dr. Ito.
Okay, thanks, Gabriel. So that's really my pleasure to share my experience here and to talk also with Dr. Najaf and seeing also from his perspective how to build research collaboration internationally. And to myself, actually, I'm always happy actually to share all my experience, all my knowledge, all my know-how to all the students, young generation, especially from Indonesia, because you know, like I want to contribute also to my nation, also to my country, and what I can tell right now is like I want to emphasize once again, let's say that. So there is no shortcut, there is no magic, there is no trick. You cannot become like Pesulap Merah, you cannot become like Gus Samsudin or whoever. But what you can be is that you can be a scientist and the real scientist. You become like great scientist if you wanna keep working hard, just staying humble, and read paper a lot, and then just practice writing a lot, so that you will end up also where you are dreaming of later on, right? So that Dr. Najaf has someone as a role model. I have also someone who is role model. Now I decided to move to industry because I have also a role model who have been from industry, having so many patents listed in the Google Scholar, and then now he moves as a full professor. There's something that I want to go for that, right? So there are many ways for being professor, for example, so that some people they stay in academia, some people they go for industry. So that for you, all the students, you can choose all your, you know, like your own paths. So then, I mean, you need to listen to some people, but all I can say is that like you have to have kind of like a good mentality to keep you really on the track, right? So that if you are bothered with so many, you know, suggestions and stuff, so that is sometimes that you will go in the not in a good way. So that's what I can say. So again, thanks Bumi Scholar for inviting me, and hopefully we can meet again in the next occasion. So thanks again, Gabriel.
Thank you to Dr. Ito. And with that, I formally close the main session. It was really insightful, and I think all the audience really enjoyed it also. So here I return the event to our Master of Ceremony, Putri.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Gabriel, as master, pardon me. I mean, moderator today. So, Sobat Lestari, thank you very much, Ms. Gabriel, Jessica Kambuan, Dr. Najaf Iqbal, Dr. Ing Hutomo Surawasisto, the inspiring materials today. But before we move to the other agenda, I hope all the participants here be able to turn on the camera, because the next session is really maybe be surprise for us like this. What the next agenda is? Okay, next agenda is route to the third Bumi Scholarship and announcement of abstract selection would be led by co-founder and supervisor of Bumi Scholarship. To Ms. Sinta Amalina Hazrati Hafid, PhD, Srep A, time is yours.
Thank you, Putri Amalia. Am I audible now? Can you hear my voice?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Before I would like to say many thanks to the speakers, Dr. Najaf. It's been a while. Like, I think I met you at the end of 2018, right? So Dr. Najaf is my classmate when I did my master's and PhD. And then I didn't expect that Dr. Ito is the friend of Bayani, also the mentor of our sessions of this. So during my PhD, I saw the post about you. So I never expect that we could invite you today. So really appreciate it. And especially to Miss Gabrielle, it's 3 a.m. there. So hopefully you are still awake. And I'm really thankful to all the speakers, moderators, also the participants. And if I'm not mistaken, today is Pakistan Independence Day. So I'd like to say Pakistan Zindabad, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry if it's wrong. Happy Independence Day. At the next 3 days will be Indonesian Independence Day. That's why at the beginning of the video, we tried to play the video like recalling the memory of Indonesia Independence Day. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sinta Amalina, the co-founder and supervisor for Bumi Scholar. So today I'd like to share a little bit, like to tell the story what Bumi Scholar is. So if I could say, Umu, could you please move to the next slide? So if I could recall the memory back then, at the end of 2019, the founder, Mas Hanif Ibrahim, he's the founder and the initiator of Bumi Scholar. That time he called me. She called me Basinta, and then Basinta, do you want to like conduct a movement, like we collect some money, and then this money should be allocated to those who have achievement, but they come from not a really good economy. So why would I reject that nice that nice movement? So I just say yes directly. It's back then in 2019. But then pandemic happened in the beginning 2020, and then we guess that is the right time to start. So during April 2020, we start to initiate with other founders. There are 7 founders, and then at the 5th of May 2020, we established these Bumi Scholars. Like we try to introduce from research program as well, but that was like research sharing. And then we introduced many programs, and finally Bumi Scholarship launched during September 2020. That was our first Bumi provide the scholarship. So Umu, can you please next to the next slide? So this is the concept of Bumi Scholarship. It's not just providing the scholarship, but we also provide mentoring. And the awardee should also conduct project. So it's also community services, capacity building. It means that once they become our awardee, they should contribute in from the small form up to the bigger form. So please next please. So there are 3 purposes of Bumi. First, we provide the scholarship. How do we provide the scholarship? For one period is like 1 semester. And then we aim to provide the scholarship to the top university students from all over Indonesia. And it comes from unprosperous family background. And then they should have a self-development and mentoring with selected mentors. We have a lot of mentors already to keep them keep maintaining their performances. And then also discussions and sharing sessions with all mentors and everyone. And then next, please. So how do we collect the money? We have the program called, the system called, like the fundraising system is like crowded. So it's crowdfunding for education. How is it happens? So next, please. So crowdfunding is like we collect, we ask for several individuals, like they start to donate from 100,000 to 250,000. We start just from 50 to 100,000. But those who wants to give more, we are very welcome. And some of our regular donors, they want to give more. So we are very thankful for that. And then they are committed to allocate the donation 6 months to 1 year. And then that is for the individual regular donors. And then there's also freelance donors. So when we conduct a program, like you need to pay, it's not for payment, but it's for, we will allocate it to scholarship. That's what happened to ISOBERT 2022, for instance. So I guess you have paid, like starts from like thousands, and then it is actually allocated to the scholarship. So thank you all the participants who have joined ISOBERT 2022. This is actually, we are going to launch the Bumi Scholarship Batch 3, and then you have contributed to this. So the next funds from sponsors and partnership for sure. And the next, please. So what we have done back then for 2 years, as you can see the numbers here, and then I just want to highlight that we have provided 36 Bumi scholarship and mentoring awardee. So they have the one who are selected all over Indonesia, and they have very nice achievement and yeah. And then we have more than 100 mentors, speakers. We have collaborated more than 250 universities. We have conducted 650 more than that training workshop and participants. And the next, please. So here are our founders and supervisors. Founders that I have told you about Mas Hanif, and then it's also me, the co-founder. And then we have 3 supervisors also, Bayani, Grace Amin, lecturer of Presiden University, and Mas Nur Islami Jabat, also the CEO of Invest and Chief DF Sharing Visions. Okay, next please. So who are our awardee? Please, next. As you can see, this is just some of our awardee. So why I say that they have a very nice achievement, as you can see here are some of the list. They are the awardee of international scholarship, IISMA scholarship awardee at Korea University and Glasgow University, and then they are also one of them are the representative from UNPAD in Harvard Model United Nations, Young Leaders for Indonesia from McKinsey and Company. They are also all mahasiswa berprestasi. I guess all of Indonesia know about this. And then also a national athlete, exchange participants, and they always eager to compete with another. And then next, please. So this is the program of Bumi Scholar in 2020. We have conducted ISOBER 2022, and we are coming next to the Student Leadership Award and Scholarship 2022. This is our main program. And the next, please. So I would like to announce you what is our main purpose of ISOBER 2022. Of course, research quality enhancements for Indonesian scholars. That's why we conduct this research mentoring, like providing deeper and insightful research knowledge from the experts. Hopefully, the speakers and the mentor have delivered such an outstanding knowledge. And then through ISOBER 2022, this is the first step for us to relaunch our main program. So we could launch the Bumi Scholarship Batch 3. And therefore, our another main purpose is that calling for all individual regular donors who want to contribute to the education. This is what we call for crowdfunding for educations. If any one of you want to be the donors or donatur tetap every month, you can contact this number, Umu and Alfi, as our external relation partnership. And then next, please. And then we are really looking forward. So the total donation we received from ISOBER 2022 is 4,370,000 rupiah. This all will be allocated to Bumi Scholarship Batch 3. Of course, we need more for our Bumi Scholarship. So again, those who want to be regular donors, or you also want to ask your friends, we are very welcome to this. And then we are aiming for more than this, so we could provide more scholarship and more awardee can receive the benefit. Okay, I think that's all about Bumi Scholar. So we shall move forward to the one that you guys, I guess, hopefully you are excited to hear. Okay, next, please. So the next one will be the collaborators, Science Mind, PPI Dunia, EBI, BINUS University, Sabda Setia, UGM, ITB, UPI. Okay, next, again, also our sponsors. And then the last but not least is our partnership. Next, please. Our partnerships. And then shall we move forward to the abstract announcement? Please, next. So, okay, this is announcement of best 12 abstract. We will divide it into six for science field, and then another 6 for the social science field. So for those who are on the list here, and I will mention your name one by one, I hope you can turn on your camera and then we'll like have a picture. That also goes for to the social science. And once you have turned on your camera, please just stay here. Okay. So next slide, please. Here we go with the best 6 abstracts from science field. First, Rini Rahma Aulia from Universitas Diponegoro, Dinda Ainur Istiqomah, Muhammad Jihan Sofa, Haikal Ramadan, Rani Aulia Imran, dan Iren Nusifera. Are you here, guys? If you are here, please raise your hand so our committee can spotlight you. Congratulations to the 6 scientists here. You guys are already scientists. So this is have been reviewed by our reviewer. And then hopefully once you receive this, you can have more deeper discussions with your mentors. So again, I'd like to call Rini Rahma Aulia, Universitas Diponegoro, Dinda Ainur Istiqomah, Universitas Negeri Malang, Muhammad Jihan Sofa, Universitas Serang Raya, Haikal Ramadan, Universitas Riau, Rani Aulia Imran, Universitas Jenderal Sudirman, and Iren Nusifera Puspita Dewi from Sahabat Cempluk. Are you guys here? Could you please raise your hand? So the committee will spotlight you and we would like to congratulate you. So I guess Miss Rani Aulia here, Miss Iren is here. Congratulations. You may start to turn on your camera so we can take the pictures. We can, yes, have a memory here. We can spotlight you once you open your camera actually. Move first. Move back. The slide, please move back. The slide, move back, please. Umu, could you move to the science field first? So we can spotlight Miss Rani Aulia and Mr. MG Sofa. Okay, so I guess the Haikal Ramadan is here. Dinda is here, okay? Miss Dinda is here. So you can take down this committee. Can you take the picture, please, now? I'm going to count in 1, be ready. 1, 2, 3. Okay, another one. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you. Congratulations, Miss Rini, Miss Dinda, Mr. Muhammad Jihan Sofa, Haikal Ramadan, Rani Aulia Imran, and Miss Iren Lucifera. Hopefully, we are going to have a meeting to brief you guys. So stay tuned with further information. Thank you. Just stay here. Just stay here. Don't go away. Don't go anywhere. So we move forward. I guess you guys have seen the slides. So let's just move forward to the social science field. I'd like to call Miss Saidah Latifah Hamid from PSKH UIN Sunan Kalijaga, Yogyakarta, Mr. Febri Kurniawan, Universitas Diponegoro, Theodore Alexander, Maria Divina and Caroline from Bina Nusantara University, Marta Rosdiana Utami, Anggita Levi Astuti, ITB, Dian Ayunita Nugraheni Nurmala Dewi from Undip. So could you please raise your hand and then the committee will spotlight you. Congratulations to this 6 best abstract. So we did the scoring based on the abstract. So there's a team here. So there are more than 6 people. So again, I'd like to call Saidah Latifah Hamid. I'm Febri Kurniawan, Theodore Alexander, Maria Divina, Caroline, Marta Rosdiana, Anggita Levi Astuti, Dian Ayunita. So we have Maria Divina here, Miss Dian here, and Febri here. Could you please turn on your camera so the committee can spotlight you? Congratulations, Miss Maria Divina, Miss Dian, Mr. Febri. So I guess this will be another next step for all of you, and hopefully this will benefit you in the near future. So to the committee, could you please take the picture of us? So I'll count it in 1, 2, 3. Okay, another one with exciteful smile. 1, 2, 3. Okay, congratulations to all winners of selected abstract. We are looking forward and we are going to announce for further information. The facilitator will contact you and then we will have a briefing on Tuesday at 8 p.m. So please be ready, and then this facilitator will contact you in a moment later. So I think that's enough from me. Congratulations again, and we shall move forward to the next sessions, and I would like you guys to stay here, so we are going to close this session with full pace. Thank you. I'll return it back to Putri Amalia.
Okay, thank you very much to our co-founder, Bumi Scholar, Ms. Sinta Malina Hazratul Hafid. The next agenda is photo session, the second photo session. And of course, to the other participants here, all of the participants will be able to turn on your camera. Oh my God, of course, in the winner of selected abstract, just up on your camera. And now I hope you're able to turn on your camera again. And because it is the last webinar for today and tomorrow there is no webinar again, so that's why let's take a picture with us, because it is a memorable moment. Okay, thank you very much for all the committee and participants and our speakers today. Turn on the camera, and the other participants, I will waiting you to turn on your camera. Oh my God. Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Gabriel, Dr. Najab, Dr. Kutomo, and etc. For the other participants, Ms. Rizky, maybe be able to turn on your camera. Ms. Junita for Indonesia, Mr. Zulfikar for Indonesia, and there is the participant from Pakistan also. From Pakistan, the name is, oh my God, a lot of participants from the other country now. Okay, we'll take a picture, and the committee will be able to help us to documentation. Okay, I will contact that. Oh my God, now our founder, Bumi Scholar, be able to turn on the camera. Hi, Mr. Ibra. Mr. Ibra, say hi to us. Okay. Okay, thank you very much for us. Take a picture in 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you very much. The other pose, and excited pose. Okay. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay. Okay. The last one, because just the participants turn on the camera, so we have to proceed it. Okay, thank you. One pose again. Okay. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, thank you very much for all the audience today. The committee will send the documentation in our group inter-webinar. Okay, Sobat Lestari, the session also is the last agenda for our webinar today. We have this even from day 1 until day 2 be able to use for us. And I would like to thank the entire people who participate and contribute in the international webinar iSolver 2022, and see you in the next opportunity. But the other people, all the participants, I want to hear your spirit today to say our tagline. If I say, same as with yesterday, if I say Salam Bestari, the participant, all of you be able to say, seikat kita bersari, bersatu kita lestari. Apa itu, gitu kan? So I will write it in column. Nah, okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ibra. Okay, all the committee or the participants be able to say. If you don't know what I say, be able to read Bumi Scholar, the name of username. Okay, seikat kita berseri, bersatu kita lestari. Are you ready? Turn on your mic. Turn on your mic to answer my tagline, our tagline today. Okay, are you ready? Salam Bestari.
Seikat kita berseri, bersatu kita lestari.
Oh my God. Okay. Once more. Okay, salam Bestari.
Seikat kita berseri, bersatu kita lestari.
Okay, thank you very much for our association and our spirit today. I'm Putri Amalia, Master of Ceremony. Be apologize to my mistakes. The last I say, thank you very much for all the audience and speaker and the committee for today. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. See you and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See you.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you everyone. Thank you all. Thank you Dr. Ito, Dr. Najaf, Miss Gabriel, and everyone. See you. Thank you Putri. Thank you committee. Congratulations. Bye.
Thank you, Mbak Shinta. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Seksi batu manikan di berjoget sama di kotak dia menyanyi sebab mengkar jula-jula, sebab mengkar jula-jula. Seksi batu manikan di berjoget sama di kotak dia menyanyi sebab mengkar jula-jula, sebab mengkar jula-jula. Cuplak-cuplak suwang-suwange tinggal lenter membuka tondong kudel Pak Empong lerak-lere sopong guyung dele ake sirpong dele kopong sirpong dele kopong Ampar-ampar pisangku belum masak sabigi diurung bari-bari manggalepok patah kayu bengkok dimakan api apinya cangcurupan rasa sayangi lihat dari jauh rasa sayangi lihat dari jauh rasa sayangi
Kala kami meninggalkan tanah air pada tanggal 1 April yang lalu, kami menyerahkan keselamatan negara, tanah air, dan bangsa ini kepada seluruh rakyat Indonesia. Selama kami di luar